What's up, ladies and gentlemen? What's up? How we doing? Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. We're a man short today. It's myself, Fab. We got Roger's with me as well, but we're missing Knack. We're missing Anthony Nacarado. He is right now, if I'm not mistaken, on the beach in Tropea, enjoying life with his family as he should. Probably thinking about Aaron Rodgers and all the touchdowns he will not score. But Knack, if you should be a little listener. You better be listening to this podcast, and I'm sure you are right now. I hope you're enjoying. Yeah, so we hope you're enjoying your vacation and send us a lot of pictures and all that fun stuff that you've been doing over there. It's a beautiful time right now. Everyone's in Italy on vacation, and we're not. We're in a monsoon here in Montreal. It's been raining nonstop, and people's homes are flooded, and it's been a horrible summer. So for those of you that are vacationing, congratulations, enjoy. You got away from this horrible weather. But what's not going to be horrible is this episode. Despite being one man down, Roger and I have a fantastic episode ready for you guys right now. We're looking at some breakout candidates for second year and third year players. We're looking at some guys that you got to be looking at later on in your draft that could win you championships. Because every year, fantasy market sleeps on year 2 and year 3 players while chasing new shiny rookie class toys. So we're going to be talking about, the rookies and all that stuff, right? But this episode, we're here to identify the players from the 2024, 2025 draft classes who are about to make everyone look foolish for not drafting them. 2 feature players per position, plus honorable mentions, clear arguments, no fluff. That's what we got ready for you guys this episode. A lot of fun. I'm looking at some guys over here, and some people are going to be like, wow, I forgot about him. I forgot about that. So this is that you want to pay attention to this. You want to, like you do all the episodes and everything that comes with the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. You want to follow us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter for weekly fantasy football breakdowns, weekly, daily, hourly, whatever you want. Send us all of your questions. Like the draft season is right around the corner. We are June 22nd.
Already,
draft
man.
season is right around the corner. It's already June 22nd. I'm not sure.
Summer's almost over.
Summer hasn't arrived in Montreal yet. It's already over. Actually, yesterday was the first day of summer, the summer solstice.
And it's already done.
Shout out Mother Nature for forgetting about our city. Anyway, so without further ado, we got a cracking episode. Let's hit the ground running right now. It's a very simple format. Each one of us are going to have one player for each position we're going to mention, as well as we're going to go over some honorable mentions, some quick hitters, nothing crazy. But without further ado, I want to kick it off right now with quarterbacks. And one guy that I think a lot of people should have on their radar, especially from a 2 quarterback perspective and Superflex League, is Tyler Shough, Mr. New Orleans Saints quarterback. He's going into his second year. He's drafted in 2025. So he was a QB4 on a per game basis last year, with averaging 20.1 points per game since week 13 on. Like you have Kellen Moore's hyper tempo offense, which is super fantasy friendly. Travis Etienne, or Achan, as he likes to pronounce his name, is joining as Achan. He's a new shining RB toy in that backfield. So him and Kamara is going to be very interesting to see how that plays off from a running back perspective. But from a quarterback perspective, it's a very friendly offense for him because he has that extra toy, right? And then you got Chris Olave, who caught fire at the end of the season. 24 catches for 352 yards, 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Sophomore QBs in established systems with weapons tend to make massive leaps, and I'm looking at Tyler Shough right now. You're talking about a guy who, for a nice amount of time last year was averaging QB, like top 5 QB numbers. You know what I mean? So, and then also had the fact that they drafted that wide receiver. I forget his name again. Jordan Tyson. So Jordan Tyson, that's another weapon in this offense. So Tyler Shough, like, how are you? You know what I mean? Like, if he starts your season as your QB2 next year, are you upset? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for him to really make a jump in 2026. So yeah, he's definitely some guy I'm going to be looking at on come draft day.
The hype.
Yeah.
The hype is real on Tyler Shough. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more about it as the pre-draft season starts. Fab, what do you think is his realistic ceiling by year's end? Like, do you think he can legit be a top 10 QB from a fantasy perspective? Because again, if you look at from what you said, week 13 on, 20 points per game, he can very well be there. And he's more mobile than you'd think too.
Yeah. Listen, so there's always going to be the conversation of a sophomore slump. I know he's in a very good offense. He's in a very friendly quarterback-friendly offense.
If Knack was here, he would say sophomore slump for sure. Like,
there's sophomore 100%. 100%. He's definitely prime.
Yeah.
No. And the only reason why I don't think it's necessarily a sophomore slump, and even for the other guy you're talking about too, like they had good seasons, but they didn't have good seasons throughout the entirety of the season. You know what I mean? Like he went through his bumps at the beginning of the year, and he got better as the season progressed. And yeah, fine. So defenses have a whole year of tape on him, no problem. Who cares? They have a whole year of tape on everybody. So I think. Can I see him as low-end QB1 numbers like throughout the entirety of the season? I think that's possible. I think he could fish as a QB12. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I think it's a high-end QB2. That's for sure. With the trajectory that he's on right now, I think it's a high-end QB2. But I think it's a decent floor, and I think the ceiling is higher than people think. I think there's quite a bit of upside here with Tyler Shough. I really do. And don't forget, this guy is older than all the other QBs that were drafted.
Great point.
In that year. So he has more mileage on him, sure, but that's also more experience, right? So, and when it comes to quarterbacks, they typically get better with age. They don't get worse.
Yeah.
So Tyler Shough for me is he's some guy that I'm really looking towards as well. Like I don't know where he's being drafted at right now on a quarterback basis, but you can definitely draft him later on and get some serious value.
Yeah, I love the point you make about, hey, like he didn't have a perfectly linear season. He already had his bumps, right? Like a lot of these quarterbacks who did have really good rookie seasons and then slumped in their sophomore seasons, they didn't have any bumps. Think of like a CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah.
Like he did. It was a very clean season. Even if we look at Caleb Williams, who had a very rough rookie season and he really excelled aside from his completion percentage last year. Right. So I see the same thing with Shough where he had his bumps, right? He didn't start right away either. It was Spencer Rattler who started. So I think that's a great call. And I think it's a good segue to, as you mentioned, my QB in this second third-year breakout list, which for me, it's Cam Ward. So I think for me with Cam Ward, one of the biggest things is just the fact that Brian Daboll is the OC. And say what you will about Brian Daboll from a offensive coordinator, head coach perspective, but as an offensive coordinator, as a play call, he knows how to scheme up an offense. So he, as an OC, working alongside Robert Saleh with an improved defense as well, with much improved offensive weapons. Think about it. Last year, he had Calvin Ridley, and A, Calvin Ridley was damaged goods, and B, Calvin Ridley, I think, played only 7 games. And then his other wide receivers were Chimere Dike and Ilik Ayomanor. He adds Carnell Tate, who was, for all intents and purposes, probably the best or second best wide receiver in the class. He added Wan'Dale Robinson, who's steadily improved. Mm-hmm. He has familiarity with Brian Daboll's offense with the Giants. And there's some rushing upside too with Cam Ward. He only had 39 rushing attempts, but I think he had 95 per season in college. So there's some upside there as well. And look, if you look at the totality of his stats, 59% completion percentage, 3,100 yards, the talent wasn't there. The offensive line was not good at all, but it got better as the season went on. I could think of some of the games against, I believe, Kansas City. I believe he played Philadelphia as well. He played really well. So I think there's a roadmap there for him to have a breakout season. The arm talent is out of this world. The talent overall is really good. He also is a guy who I think started almost 60 games in college. So he has experience. So I'm a big proponent of Cam Ward, as is a lot of the film watching quarterback kind of ecosystem in fantasy. I think he's primed for a very, very good season. And I think for him, his peak is, I'm not ready to necessarily say top 10 QB because he doesn't have the talent around him like Tyler Shough has, but I would be very, 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 I wouldn't be surprised if he has like a top 14 to 15 or 16 QB season, which would be very good from a 2 QB perspective.
Yeah, those are all great points. I think one thing that we have to emphasize is Brian Daboll. I know you mentioned it right at the beginning, but Brian Daboll, as an OC, is a much different coach than as he is as a head coach, right? Like there are certain coaches out there that are just better as coordinators. I think Brian Daboll fits the bill. So from an
100%.
offensive coordinator perspective, and just like a football schematic perspective for Cam Ward with the guys that were added in the roster, yeah, I'm expecting a jump for sure. And last year for him, it was the worst year that he could have had. Like, the offense was void of talent. The offensive line wasn't great. The coaching staff was a carousel. It just wasn't good. Now, like, give the guy some stability. Robert Saleh is a great coach. He's a great coach. I still think it was the wrong move for the Jets to get rid of him personally.
Yeah.
So I think there's gonna be some serious stability in Tennessee, and that's going to translate on the football field. I like your call. I think his ceiling is around that mid-tier QB2, like high-end QB2. I think that's realistic. And the only reason why I'm giving him, again, same thing as your point, the reason why I'm giving him a bit of a knock is because of the offensive weapons, right? But having Wandell there is such a security blanket.
Solid.
Carnell
Exactly.
Tate,
It's the right name for it. Security blanket.
100%. Carnell Tate, I'm optimistic. I think he's probably the most, because he comes from wide receiver university, right? So I feel like he might be the safest option of all of the wide receivers that were drafted, in my opinion. So we're going to see how that translates to the NFL. But yeah, I like all the moves they did. It just makes sense. It just makes absolute sense.
Yeah, totally. And we'll move on to our honorable mention. We were talking about Brian Daboll. Someone who's very close to Brian Daboll is Jackson Dart. So we see Jackson Dart as an honorable mention as a breakout candidate. Fab, what do you think on this front with regards to Jackson Dart?
This is the ultimate high risk, high reward for me. Jackson Dart can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL from a fantasy perspective. And taking away my Giants hat here for a second. But, he does play with a little bit too much of that moxie that a lot of people don't want him to play with. I'm excited to see him in an offense with Matt Nagy and all that. It's gonna
whatever the Matt Nagy offense is.
Listen, I'm blindly trusting in John Harbaugh. He hired Matt Nagy, who by all accounts is a good offensive coordinator and has played in some very good offenses. He's who's the Greg Roman? The Greg Roman's the running game coordinator, but he's only for the running game.
Keep Greg Roman away from the passing game, and we will be okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I feel like he's placing, again, this is just on paper. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen in game one, but on paper, he's supposedly, and when I say he, I mean John Harbaugh, is putting all of the right coaching pieces in the right places. How will that translate? I don't know. That's why. But I do. Like, do I think Jackson Dart can have a better finish than he did last year? Of course. Do I also think he can get injured after the first 6 games?
Yeah. So that 43% of fantasy production that comes from rushing, that has to go down. Number one. Number 2, he cannot be a breakout candidate if Malik Neighbors doesn't play, whatever it is, call it like 14 games, 13 games. Right now, it doesn't look promising that he's going to start the first at least 3-4 weeks. He has to play games.
The Giants' official Twitter account was posting videos of Neighbors with the prompt of he's going to be the comeback player of the year. They're expecting him to start like week 1. They're expecting.
We'll see.
We'll see. We're June 22nd. There's a lot.
We'll see. We're going to talk about some other Giants folks later when we get to some of the other positions. But we're going to move on now to the running back. Maybe I'll just start it right away.
Yep.
For me, my breakout candidate at running back is Bhayshul Tuten. So the first thing to think of when you're thinking, hey, Bhayshul Tuten as a breakout candidate is don't look at the numbers from last year because he was not really a factor, which was surprising because they had traded Tank Bigsby to Philadelphia. I think a lot of people started adding Bhayshul Tuten to think, hey, maybe he might see a bit more burn. Etienne had a fantastic season, not only from a rushing perspective, but from a catching perspective as well. I think he had a game, I think he caught like 3 touchdowns from Trevor Lawrence. So right away, that production is gone. That's 1,400 yards of total Etienne offense that's completely gone. Boom, that goes into Bhayshul Tuten's lap. Secondly, he doesn't have much competition. We saw what we needed to see out of Chris Rodriguez when he was with the Commanders. That's not much of a competition. They did not draft another running back. So right away, Bhayshul Tuten becomes the, quote unquote, bell cow potential back. And I think some of the underlying metrics were pretty decent. If you think of his, I think he had a really good success rate. He was 5th in rushing success rate as a rookie, 11th in missed tackle rate, 17th in yards after contact per attempt. So those are some really promising numbers. I think if you look, if you're someone who's drafting with, maybe some less experienced players, they're going to see Bhayshul Tuten's numbers from last year and completely avoid him. He can be had at a relatively good cost to be your RB2. So he is someone that I relatively like quite a bit. From an ADP perspective, so far he's RB26 on various platforms. So again, leading to the fact that I think he could be had at a relatively good cost. And we saw that Liam Cohen offense. It's the last thing I'll say. That Liam Cohen offense was amazing last year. Hope there's no regression, but I think Bhayshul Tuten could be a very solid running back candidate next year.
Yeah, I love these calls. I really do. And considering the running backs that are going around that area, I think he might have the highest ceiling. If you talk about guys like David Montgomery, you know what you're getting with David Montgomery.
Yes.
He's going as an RB25. Like, he's good. He's meat and potatoes guy, but Tuten controls that backfield. RJ Harvey, you don't know what's going on in Denver. Chuba Hubbard, you don't know what's going on in Carolina. We're going to talk about that in a second too. Like, as much as he's been great and all that, but there's Jonathan Brooks that's back now. You have Rondre Stevenson and Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle could be interesting, but there's always going to be Jalen Warren there. So it's from a like when you're drafting in the middle 20s for running backs like you are right now, Tuten is the guy that gives you the highest ceiling, and it's not even close, really.
Exactly.
It's not even close. And he's going to have a decent floor too, because who else is there in that offense?
Totally.
And Liam Cohen, that offense was humming towards the end. He was like, you saw how good Trevor Lawrence was looking. It's only going to be a matter of time until that translates over to Tuten too. So I like this call, and people are going to be, hopefully people sleep on him only so I can draft him later on. But I don't know if it's going to be the case though.
Yeah, I love the
moving
point
on though. We're gonna. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You love the point.
No, I was just going to agree with you. I love the point on ceiling, and like he's the bell cow. He's the number one guy there. So
100%. Speaking of a guy who's not the bell cow, but is still going to be getting a lot of looks, Blake Corum, LA Rams. So I am. Everybody who knows me knows that I love my Kyren Williams. I love me some Kyren Williams. I really do. I think the guy is underappreciated in the NFL. But as we saw last year, Corum slowly started to take a lot of the carries away from Kyren Williams. The LA Rams are a team that will be looking to play a lot of games at the end of the season. After trading for Myles Garrett and potentially having Aaron Donald come out of retirement, you're looking at a team that's going to be pushing for the Super Bowl. So what does that mean? They want to make sure that their best running back is going to be healthy. Enter Blake Corum. So I think this is going to be a complete committee, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be very much a 1A, 1B, and Blake Corum is going to be a very close 1B. And he played, by all accounts, played very well last year. We're talking about a guy who had a 50.9% explosive run rate, second in the NFL, only behind Devon Achane, which is a huge number. 5.1 yards per carry, tied with Bijan Robinson, 10th best avoided tackle rate among 49 qualified running backs. Like, he was averaging 5.85 carries per game the first 2 months. Then he went to 10 carries per game in the final 13, and that includes playoffs. So they're going to be using a lot of the running backs. From an ADP standpoint, I think you're going to be getting, and this reminds me a lot of last year we spoke about Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, about how you can get a wide receiver 1 3 rounds later in Devontae Adams, for those people that were like, I'm not going to say reaching on Puka Nacua, but drafting Puka Nacua. I think it's a very similar scenario here. Obviously, the positions are different, where people are going to be drafting Kyren Williams 2 or 3 rounds earlier than Blake Corum, but Blake Corum is going to be providing more or less the same production. And it's not a knock on Kyren Williams. I think it's just the how this offense will be manufactured this year for them to have a very, very long playoff run. And I think because of that, you're going to get Blake Corum way later in ADP. I think right now his ADP is RB36. Kyren Williams' ADP is RB15. So you're talking about like 21 points, so 21 spots after. And you're looking at a guy who has a much higher ceiling, in my opinion. Drafting a guy who's a RB4 basically. So that's where I'm looking at from a Blake Corum perspective. He's a bit of a flyer, more of a lottery ticket at the end of the year, but I think there's a really good chance that he hits. I really do.
My sole argument for kind of passing, not just on this backfield, but mostly on Kyren Williams, is we see Sean McVay kind of has a shelf life with a lot of his running backs, right? Like Gurley actually lasted a long time, but you saw that the tread kind of on those tires starting to go out quickly, like by 2019. Then he had the Cam Akers years, and then he had the Sony Michel years, and then he got kind of like
Darnell Henderson.
Darnell Henderson as well. Yes, absolutely. There was Trey Mason. There was Zach Stacy, Malcolm Brown as well.
Oh my God, Zach Stacy!
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's almost Kyren Williams has almost bucked the trend. Actually, he's lasted longer, almost as long as Todd Gurley. I just think, like, again, does this play a factor or not? Like they drafted Blake Corum as a second round pick, and the proof is in the pudding. Those final 13 games, the increased carry usage, it became more of a 60-40 split compared to an 80-20, which it was last year. And I think it's going to be closer to almost 50-50 this year.
Yeah. Yeah. We're saying the same thing, honestly. It's going to be very hard for me to draft Kyren Williams like 3 rounds above Blake Corum. I think he's going to drop precipitously. I don't think it's going to be a very clear split. I think you're looking at a serious committee.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're going to jump quickly into our honorable mentions, if you don't mind. And one guy who won't be a split committee, but should be getting a bulk of the workload, is Ashton Jeanty. I mean, he had, by all accounts, he didn't have a great year one. I think it's also from a question of expectations, but the Raiders have objectively gotten better this offseason, especially their offensive line, which was a big issue last year. Signing Tyler Lindenbaum to like the most amount of money ever for a center should help stabilize that offensive line. They had an elite offensive coordinator, elite head coach. You're talking about a completely revamped offense. I think you're going to be looking at a completely different Ashton Jeanty. He's the only reason why he's an honorable mention is because he's already going to be going as an RB1, so that won't necessarily change. But I think this provides a little bit more confidence to the people that will be drafting him. Christian Judkins, new head coach in Todd Monken, who was the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He brings credibility to the offense. You're expecting about maybe 18 to 20 touches per game. I don't think Dylan Sampson is much of a threat to Quinton.
More of a passing down guy.
Yeah. Plus, I don't think there was a lot of confidence in him last year to begin with. Like Quinton Judkins did have some games where he really tore it up last year, right? So I think it's going to be a continuation of that too. And then last one, and this one I'm really excited about. Jonathan Brooks, year 3. This guy, when he was drafted as the best running back in that class, and he was also highly touted coming out of college, out of Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. Texas. Despite having 2 ACL tears and never really playing, the Panthers let Rico Dowdle walk for a reason, despite the fact that Rico Dowdle leading the NFL in rushing yards after only playing like half the games at one point. So, as far as I'm concerned, if the Panthers think that this is their guy, I'm good with that, and this is my guy too. He's a bit of a boomer bust late flyer, but I think I don't know, man. Like I'm chasing the talent here. I hope he's fully recovered from those ACL tears. This is a serious flyer that you can get at the end. That's gonna be very, very, very exciting and can win you championships for sure.
Texas running backs, man, they performed very well in the league. We saw obviously with Bijan Robinson and his last year at Texas, 187 attempts, almost 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 103 yards per game. This guy can be absolutely electric. So I like that call as an honorable mention. And just for Ashton Jeanty, it's Ashton Jeanty to the moon. I think the Clint Kubiak signing as head coach is going to finally propel him to an RB1 season potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely 3 serious names to keep an eye out when you are drafting. That's for sure. I think we're gonna jump into wide receivers now. Yes. I'm just gonna keep the train rolling. So this guy, I love this guy. I know I've been saying that a lot about a lot of players we've been talking about right now, but Luther Burden III, man, like he really came on in the last 8 games of the season. including the playoffs with a 26% target share. Like, this guy basically made DJ Moore expendable. You know what I mean? Like him and Rome Odunze, like these are going to be the guys going forward. And like no rookie wide receiver has averaged more yards per route run than Burden's 2.71 over the last decade. 74% of his season receiving yards came after the week 9 bye. So arrow was pointing up, in my opinion. And with the aforementioned DJ Moore now moving on to being traded to Buffalo, so that opens up about 85 targets and 6 touchdowns that just vacated. Ben Johnson has said, I want to buy stock in Luther Burden. So he didn't say that about Odunze. That tells you a lot, man. Like I remember when we were looking at candidates and wide receiver candidates for our draft profile of like last year, and this guy really stood out, man. He really did. Like I think there's a lot of people that are sleeping on this guy, and he still has 60 targets as a rookie, but the volume is coming. So there is a little bit of a concern just from the fact that like there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense with Colson Loveland and obviously Rome Odunze too. But if we're expecting Caleb Williams to have a top 3 quarterback season like we did last episode, it doesn't matter how many mouths there are to feed. There's a buffet, and his name is Caleb Williams, my friend. So just get on some Luther Burden. That's all I can say. Yeah. Luther Burden the third. Thank you very much. Doesn't matter about number 1, number 2. The 3 is the one that counts the most. This guy right now, he is going as wide receiver. Where is he? He's all the way so far down the list. I can't even see him.
23.
Yeah, I think the ceiling is high on this guy. He's going around guys that I'll be completely honest here. I would much prefer. I'll take Devontae Adams at that spot instead. Yeah. Well, dude, he's a touchdown merchant, man. It's still Devontae Adams. Come on. But like, would I be taking Luther Burden over Terry McLaurin? Maybe. Honestly, I don't think it's as close as people. I don't think it's as far away as people. Maybe. Like
even Zay Flowers is at 19. I'm taking Luther Burden over Zay Flowers. Even Jalen Waddle is in an absolute committee with Cortland Sutton
he's
and
Troy good
Franklin.
Offense.
He's in a very good offense, but he could easily get lost. And I love what I saw out of Luther Burden last year. And if you factor in that DJ Moore was there, like you said, Fab, DJ Moore was there, Loveland was there, Odunze was there, Cole Kmet was there.
Yeah.
To the moon. So for my breakout candidate at the wide receiver position, I'm cheating a little bit. This guy kind of almost broke out basically from a wide receiver perspective in his rookie year. I'm going with Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, we all know what the story is. The first 5 games of 2025, he was averaging 20.5 fantasy points per game. He was basically a WR3, WR5. So we know the talent is real. We know it is proven. There was kind of an underlying hamstring injury that kind of derailed him. He went through some games where Tez Johnson was getting more targets than him. Some other players were getting more targets than him. So he only had 1 TD after week 9 and double digits just twice the rest of the season. Sorry to say this, Fab, but Baker Mayfield heavily regressed too last year. I don't know if he was hiding an injury, but he just was not as good as he was in kind of his like QB 5, QB 8 season. He was ranked QB 27 in on-target pass percentage after finishing 10th in 2024. The upside aspects, though, are very promising. No more Mike Evans, so he's gone to San Francisco. Chris Godwin is 30. He had a whole slew of injuries, mostly the ankle injury. He never really came back strong from that point. But Egbuka is projected for 122 targets in 2026. So to me, he's the very, very clear WR1. And they have a new offensive coordinator. I believe it's Zach Robinson, who was previously with the Falcons. The Josh Grizzard offense never really took off. Robinson is also a disciple of Sean McVay. So we know how Sean McVay can scheme up touchdowns with the best of them. So really, really promising. And I think you're going to be able to buy low on Emeka Egbuka because of the finish. I think people are going to be scared of the finish that he had last year.
I agree 100%. He's going around the same spot as Luther Burden, which to me is a pretty good angle for him because I see him finishing as a top 50. I could see an avenue where he finished as a top 15 wide receiver.
Yes.
I don't think it's a fluke that the way he started off last year. Again, you go back to where this kid came from, right? The Ohio State wide receivers are legit, man. Like they have the pedigree to go with it, and he's one of them too. So I like this call a lot. I think he does have a jump in year two. Plus the fact that, again, you look at the scenarios like similar to Luther Burden. You had a vet that was there who is now gone.
Yep.
So you know what? Targets are going to be vacated. And you have to assume that it's going to be funneled to the most active and acceptable player. And you're looking at Egbuka, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You want to run through the honorable mentions, Raj?
Yeah, let's do it. There's quite a few honorable mentions here. We have Jack Besh from the Raiders, pretty much lost rookie season, but Kubiak being there, he could be a dynasty buy low. There's not much from a wide receiver perspective in Las Vegas, so they drafted him in the second round. They have to see what they get from him this year. Matthew Golden, year two growth candidate. It was a really rough rookie season. I owned a lot of Matthew Golden stock. There was those one or two catches per game that made you kind of, okay, look, we might see something out of him. And then he was always kind of jettisoned as the third or fourth option there. What's helpful is that there's no more Dontavian Wicks. And I believe, is there it's no more Romeo Dobbs. Yes, Romeo Dobbs. So he steps in right away as a top 2-3 candidate easily. There's the aforementioned Roma Dunze. This one is it's TBD, but it was really promising the first 12 games, 90 targets. He has to catch the ball. That was his main issue. Second half of the year, he dropped way too many balls. Ricky Purcell, his issue is more so that he just can't stay healthy. 8 targets per game pre-injury. He's an explosive player, but he cannot stay healthy. And, does Mike Evans coming to San Francisco might actually help open things up for him? But health is the factor there. And then there's Mr. Xavier Worthy. It feels like we're kind of just on the brink of where we want to be with Worthy, but whether it's health, whether it's Patrick Mahomes not being there, we want to see more out of him. That's not just him being an outside deep threat guy. So those are the honorable mentions. I think potential for a lot of these guys to have really, really big seasons. But otherwise, we're going to move on to the tight ends. Our last breakout session, it'll be the tight end. So I'm going to start us off from a tight end perspective with Mr. Aronde Gatson Jr. So Gatson had a really nice week, 4-week stretch between weeks 6 and 10, 24 receptions, almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's actually a former wide receiver, and you see it when he runs. He is very fast, not much of a blocker. So you're going to see him on the slot. You're going to see him at X receiver. And what I love about it is that Mike McDaniel is there, and they added David Njoku as another tight end. And we're seeing more and more teams that play 2 tight end sets. It is not an impediment for one or both tight ends to be really successful. You see it in New England. Yeah. You see it in Chicago with Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland, and you're definitely going to see it with the Chargers. I am buying all the stock on Charger players, including Aronde Gatson. I think he's going to have a really, really strong season and improve upon what he did last year.
Yeah, those Harbaughs, they like their jumbo sets, and I love this call. I think there's going to be a very nice jump for him in year 2. Mike McDaniel, he's again, this is another guy that potentially is probably going to be better as an offensive coordinator than he was as a head coach. And I think he fell into a very good scenario here working with John Harbaugh. So I like this a lot. This is a very good value tight end spot that you can get much later on in rounds that can bring you back some significant returns. My guy, we're going to continue with the tight ends, obviously. Likely going to be a top 10 tight end. Likely. I mean, is he a sleeper? I don't think he's a sleeper. I think this is the worst kept secret. I think he's a breakout candidate for sure. We're cheating a bit. This is a year 4 tight end, but he was playing in Baltimore for 3 years behind Mark Andrews. Now he has the path to being a number 1 tight end on this offense. I mean, John Harbaugh went to go get him on purpose. You know what I mean? And he's working in an offense that is being led by Matt Nagy. We all knew what Matt Nagy did in Kansas City with Travis Kelce. So there's a lot of reasons to be very excited about this. Another reason, since we're on reasons, last year Jackson Dart threw 22% of his passes to tight ends, Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger. Likely is a better pass catcher than both of those guys, and it's not close. And he's also a better target for them as well, and it's not close. So he's averaged an elite 1.96 fantasy points per target in Baltimore, which is amongst the best amongst tight ends from an efficiency standpoint. So I don't know how else to say this. He's a great tight end. He's an excellent player, and he's in a very good situation. And we just talked about how like teams that add other tight ends to their roster, like we're talking about jumbo sets here lining up.
Yeah.
He's going to be lined up with another tight end on the other side, either Theo Johnson or Daniel Bellinger. But he's going to be the guy, especially if Malik Neighbors is going to be injured the first few games and miss. He will be the target because you have no more Wandale Robinson there. Slayton can't catch a cold. So the only other option right now is really going to be Isaiah Likely. So I don't see how this doesn't pan out. I mean, this is top 5 tight end upside all day, every day.
Yeah.
And this is a huge breakout candidate in my book.
I don't mean to be too optimistic either, but I find it nuts that he's going after like the likes of Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, even Dallas Goedert. I agree with you. I'm very, very high on Isaiah Likely this year, especially depending on what happens with Malik Neighbors.
Yeah. Well, it could be name value, could be name recognition. Because Dalton Kincaid last year when he played, which wasn't very often, but he was, I had him on a few rosters. The guy was a machine.
He's very efficient.
He's still the guy over there.
He's very he does a lot with not a lot of targets.
Yeah.
But DJ Moore is there now, so.
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be very interesting too from that standpoint. You want to run off the honorable mentions?
Yeah, we'll go through we just have 2 honorable mentions here: AJ Barner and Chiga Okonkwo. We'll go with AJ Barner first.
Your really boy.
Solid. Yeah, we'll start with AJ Barner. I think really solid under the radar season. 52 catches, 519 yards, 6 touchdowns in his second season. He was kind of the tush push guy for the Seattle Seahawks. Scored a Super Bowl, a TD in Super Bowl 2 and as well, and he was actually second on the team in reception. So let's see what happens. It'll depend on what happens with Clint Kubiak being gone, obviously. And, could there be some year 2 in Seattle regression with Sam Darnold, TBD, but a really solid get as a tight end if you need a tight end streamer. More so if you want someone with upside, Chiga Okonkwo. So as anyone knows, I've been banging on the Chiga Okonkwo drum for a very long time. I've always felt that he could be a very, very solid player with Tennessee. If you watch some of his tape or you watch some of his film, you see the absolute amazing speed. You see the great route running, sideline catches. He got a $27 million contract with the Commanders, so there is a lot of target upside from that perspective. And I could see him being a big time sleeper at tight end. He's going at tight end 20 now. He's going after the likes of Hunter Henry, Brenton Strange, Juwan Johnson, Mark Andrews. Okonkwo is a legitimate potential second option in Washington.
I don't know about you, but I'm looking at the names of tight ends. There's a lot of depth. Yes. I think we said this last year too, but there's a lot of depth. It's going to be very it's going to be super hard to pinpoint that 7 to 15 range for tight ends is going to be flip a coin on so many of these guys, because you could make an argument for any one of them, whether they'll be higher up in the category or lower down in the category.
Well,
I mean, George Kittle, you can never count them out. Jake Ferguson is still the only guy in Dallas right now. Travis Kelce, right? Dallas Goedert is the only one that I'm really pumping the brakes on. Yeah. Mark Andrews, same argument you have for Isaiah Likely, you also have now for Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
He is the only guy there, like healthy or not, like the ceiling is high. Juwan Johnson, New Orleans, I could take him down a few pegs because now there's that offense has got them a little bit
more competition.
A lot. Yeah, 100%. Brenton Strange in Jacksonville. I feel like a lot of people are expecting him to boom at some point. It's been tough sledding.
A lot of buyer's remorse for him last year.
Oh, same for me. And then you have Hunter Henry, who, if you time it right, you get a tight end 1 on certain weeks of the season. Let me tell you. I know from experience, it's very nice when you time it right. It's horrible when it isn't. So you talk about Chig as tight end 20. I can see him finishing as tight end 15, tight end 12, and having weeks of top 10, because that the Washington offense has regressed. And this is their best offensive weapon that they have signed this offseason, in my opinion. They haven't done much else. And Chig is a good tight end. So I can see Jaden Daniels when he's under duress by every single pass rush that's in the NFC East, which is diabolical from a pass rush perspective. I can see him throwing it out to the flat to Chig, and I can see this being a thing. So I Chig is a very nice sleeper for me. I like this a lot. So that I mean that's the episode, guys. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point, but it's kind of what we want to do right now. It's usually how it is when Knack isn't with us on the episodes. Much more efficient, much more streamlined. I'm kidding, Knack. I'm kidding. You're sipping your spritz over there on the beach in Tropea with your eating oysters and squid and whatever. And I can't say what I want to say on right now, but you know what I'm thinking around. You son of a. Anyways, guys, that was our episode. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for jumping on with us. We're going to be back in about a few weeks again with another great episode, like we always have. We're previewing very interesting things for the off season right now, leading up to the NFL fantasy football season. As always, please follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, for all of our weekly stuff, all of our reels, all of our questions, all that. We still have content going on, and we're still interacting with our fans as much as possible. So thank you very much for listening to this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in every week or every other week. I'm Fab. That's Raj. For the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll see you in a few weeks, guys. Thank you very much.